We want to thank everyone for their participation, for making this happen. We keep getting new participants in and out. So all of you participants really make it happen because, all these wonderful rabbis teaching all these wonderful classes, if you weren't here to listen to them, they would not be wasting their time. Believe me, they're not just going to come and speak to the ether. So therefore, you are really making it happen. The fact that people are coming and participating, all of the classes have been well attended. I don't think we've had a class that's had less than a dozen people, and a number of them have had many more. And of course, as we get into the evening hour, probably the numbers will be going up because we've been going through the day. Things have been, it's difficult for people to take time off. They're dealing with their families and kids and lunch times and bedtimes, but now we're getting towards the evening. So we're getting ready for our next class, which is going to be presented to us by Harold Schroeder. So first of all, just a couple of notes about what we're doing here. So what we're doing is we're doing three big mitzvahs. Number one is we're learning Torah. Number two is we're enabling Torah by participating, by being an audience for all these rabbis. You're enabling these classes. And which, by the way, we've had participants, according to the map, according to our live stream analytics map, we've actually had participants from around the world. Someone participated from Spain. I know we've had a couple of participants from Israel because I recognize them. One of them was my sister. So we have had participants from Israel. We have also had participants from all around the United States. So that's been really great. So your participation has enabled the rabbis. Also, your generous donations are not only enabling this to happen, but keeping Congregation Ariel a vibrant place. They can keep coming up with more exciting ideas like this that will be disseminating Torah, because that's really what we are all about. So this is a fundraiser that is what we're all about. And we're not just fundraising for fundraising's sake. We're trying to give you something, and we're asking if you like it, if you appreciate it, you continue to support the congregation so that we can do more things like this. This particular fundraiser is low overhead, which means that at least 95 cents on your dollar is going to be going to support tzedakah, straight to tzedakah, support the shul and all the good things that we do. So it's a really, really effective way to raise money, because you get a good product, your money that you give back is put to full use, and it's really a very efficient way of talk about win, win, win. It's the best way that we can think of, and it's working and it's great. So we really appreciate it. When we really originally came up with this idea, it was before COVID, way back in early March, and it was envisioned to actually be taking place live. And of course, then our lives all changed and we all think differently now. And we were supposed to start publicizing the event and working on it right after Pesach. But of course, right after Pesach, everyone was in a different place and we didn't get on it. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that we really, really got to it. And therefore, we really thought about it. We said, well, should we skip it? But we thought that there's such value in it. You could do so much for the community. We didn't want to let it go. So thank God we didn't, because we've been doing great things. And because of that, you have the ability to learn Torah. But we have to give some thanks, because this would not have happened if it wasn't for the fact that we made some wonderful connections. One of them is the people at Raise Giving of Remel Chazanov, who is being our website here. Another one is a fellow named Josh Needle, who is who's doing all of our technical arranging and keeping us all connected to each other, and keeping our office and me and the presenters all connected and tied in with each other. And he's at Broad Spectrum Services, LLC.com. So thanks a lot to Josh. Of course, The glue that keeps everything together at the shul is our shul office, and that is managed by Debbie Kalvarisky and assisted by Basia Heinzelman. So thanks to both of them. Thank you to all of our rabbis, as I mentioned before, and all of our non-rabbis. Some of them are Rebbitzins. By the way, we had a couple of Rebbitzins in the schedule. Maradina was on this afternoon, and tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we're going to have Mrs. Rivka Froxbrunner for women on at 3 o'clock tomorrow. But there are two people that I asked to participate in this because they are Ariel rabbis. And one of them is the next person who's going to be giving the very next class, and that is Rabbi, maybe soon to be, or Rabbi with a lowercase r, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, he's a rabbi, and that is Harold Schroeder. So Harold teaches a wonderful group that meets Tuesday evenings in our shul, and they study Chumash together. And they don't just like read through the Chumash and see what Rashi has to say. They analyze it in depth. They really, really dig into it. And I see a number of the regulars at the class are here. And it's really, I've listened to the class, and it's a great presentation. Harold's got a particular topic for this evening about milk and meat, but I think anyone will find his style absolutely tantalizing and intriguing. And it's a tremendous honor for us to have a homegrown be able to be presenting one of the classes as he is about to do right now, and that is Harold Schroeder. So I'm going to do two things for Harold, and one of them is, first thing I'm going to do is make Harold if I can find him here, going to make Harold a co-host. If I can find you, Harold. For some reason, I'm not seeing Harold, so I'm going to go right to your picture. Now you got to be here somewhere. There's Harold. Okay, hang on. And let me see. The first thing I'm going to do is make you a co-host. There you are. Well, actually, I'm going to make Laura the co-host of this meeting. Okay. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the spotlight over to Harold. And when I do, so he's going to have the spotlight on him, and then he will be able to take it away and participate. And I am going to hang around for a minute or so because you got more people joining. They're coming in all the time. So right now, and I'll just repeat this one thing for everyone that's coming in here, and that is that if you go to the Ariel raisegiving.com website, you will see in front of you a picture, a beautiful poster that says 48-hour Torathon. And that poster was designed by Rabbi Michal Friedman. And we want to give him a big shout out because he is a great graphic artist, and he's great at graphic arts and publicity. Yeah, shukayach to him for that. And on that, you will see a
Don't see him.
If you hit the play button, then you will be able to listen to all of this, but you will not be able to participate. However, if you go below it to the button that says click to be an active participant, click here, then you'll be an active participant in Zoom, and you'll be able to talk and answer questions. And I know that Harold is going to expect you to participate. So that'll be great. You'll be an active participant. Either way, on the way in or on the way out, there's another button that we'd like to ask you to click, and that would be the donate button. So if you click that donate button, that would be a wonderful thing. If you're a little bit, if you're above 60, you're like me, just imagine I'm Jerry Lewis, and this is Labor Day. So this is the telethon, and we're asking you to participate, and I hope that you'll do that. So without further ado, so by the way, if you don't see the fact that we're seeing right now 24 participants, really there are more than that because there are the people who are also on on the live stream, and we're not necessarily seeing them right now. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to put the spotlight on Harold. And when I do, it's his. You're on, Harold.
All right.
And
Welcome,
if you-
everybody. Welcome to, this is our normal time for What's Bothering Rashi. It's a half hour earlier, but our topic tonight is, we're not going to talk about dairy. We're going to talk about meat or not to meat. That's the topic. And I just want to thank Rabbi Freeman for this awesome Torathon. I hope everybody's been watching as much as they can. And I want to thank everybody who's donated to our class tonight. Thank you. And also I got to thank my son-in-law, Aaron Fruckman in Israel, for his help on this class. And of course, you see on the computer, it says Laura, and it's really not a mistake. Because without Laura, this wouldn't happen. This wouldn't be able to happen. So she's definitely part of this, and so her name's up there.
Harold, I want to ask you to keep an eye out if you see anyone that comes in that need to be admitted.
I can
Get them.
All right, sounds good.
Take it away.
All right. So a little bit of history, and while I do this history, if you don't have a Chumash, you might want to get one, because to follow along on a Chumash would be a lot easier, and I think you get a lot more out of it. But this group, our What's Bothering Rashi group, started many years ago with Rabbi Michael Freeman, probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And it was based on a book called What's Bothering Rashi. Here's the book right here. And it's a whole series. And we did it with and some of the people that started with me are here tonight, and we've been together since the beginning. And we finished with Rabbi Michal. He finished up, and we decided to keep going with What's Bothering Rashi. So we finished the whole series. And once we finished the series in 2016, January of 2016, so what are we going to do? So we decided to start all over again. But this time, instead of pick a few pasuk for each parsha, we decided to start from the beginning of the Torah and do every pasuk, and to apply what we learned and to add to it. Besides Rashi, we consult all the other rabbis available to us. And because of that, we can do, it takes us, we started in January 2016, we're up to chapter 17 in Lech Lecha. So that tells you how long it takes to do this and what's involved, and which is a one pasuk class. So tonight, we're going to be doing a lot. We're going to do through Breshis, we're going to do Shmini, all the way to Devarim, to figure out what's going on here, what the Torah wants to tell us about eating meat. And usually it's a very interactive class. We a lot of back and forth. I learn as much from them as they probably learn from me. So it's a really nice give and take. But tonight we're probably not going to be able to do so much of that give and take. But if I can finish in time, I want to end with we can unmute everybody if possible, or just you can raise your hand. We'll figure out how we'll do it. But I want your take on the information that I give you. What do you think? Should we eat meat or not? We meat or not to meat? I want to know what you think. Okay, so we're going to start in. I'm using a Matsuda Chumash. So the wording I'm going to use is from the Matsuda. This might be different from yours, and that's where we usually start. Sometimes we'll start reading 4 or 5 different Chumashes to see what the difference is, and that gives us a hint of where we need to go and what's bothering all these rabbis. So I'm going to be the interpretation of the Masuda, which is close to Rashi. So we're going to start on pasuk 21 in the first chapter of Breshis. Okay, and a lot of this I'm going to be doing in English just for speed and because what we're interested in, and we're going to stick to our topic. Hopefully, try to anyway. So we're going to do this in 4 phases. We're going to start with on the 6th day of creation, which we're going to do right now. Then we're going to go to after the flood, with Noah. And then after that, we're going to go to Vayikra, we're going to Shmini, we're going to go to when Moshe gives us the laws of Kashrus. And then we're going to go all the way to Devarim, right before we get into Israel, when Moshe tells them how they can eat meat on getting into Israel when they're going to be far away from the temple. And that's where we're going to end up, hopefully tonight. This was a class I was planning on doing the whole night of Shavuot, so we'll see if we can encapsulate it. Anyway, so we're going to start. We'll start with 21, pasuk 21. V'yivrei Elohim es hataninim hagadolim, and thus Avram created. Oh, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong one. I always do that. My guys are probably used to that. Anyway, we're going to start on pasuk 24. I'm sorry. Pasuk 24 says, "Vayomer Elohim itotzei haaretz nefesh chaya." Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures." Okay. Right before this, what I was starting to read was in the fifth day, Hashem brings the birds of the heaven, the fish of the sea. In other words, he brings what's living in Shemayim and what's living below the earth. He leaves for the sixth day what is on the earth, and that's where we are. Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures, nefesh haya." That's going to be important for us. Each of its kind, lamina. Animals, behema, which are the domesticated animals, creeping things low to the ground, insects, and lamina, again, of its kind. We're going to see this word lamina mentioned a lot, and we'll tell you what that means in a minute. And the beasts of the earth, which are the wild animals, each of its kind. And it was so. Okay. And so right away, if it was just us, we'd ask questions. We'd even look at the pay break. We noticed there's a pay break up there. Where the Tznachters are. We would kind of tear it apart and look where everything is. But for our purposes tonight, what is a nefesh haya? Okay. What is this list? Each of its kind, animals of pasture, creeping things, beasts of the earth. And what's lamina? Lamina, when it says each of its kind, Hashem is telling us no inbreeding. None of this, animals, different animals together. Everything is pure. Keep everything pure. No mixing up. That's what lamina is, and he keeps saying it over and over again. Very important. So, what's a nefesh haya? So, we'll discuss that in a minute. But what else? So, what other questions would we have at this point? The one question I would have right away, that because I know what's coming up, man's going to be created. Why are animals created before man? What's up with that? Again, what's the nefesh haya? And I know because I know later on a man's going to also be called nefesh haya. And here we're talking about animals. When it says, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures, each of its kind," the animals, the domesticated animals, the creeping things, and the beasts of the earth. Is he talking this list, living creatures, just the generality, and then each one is listed next, or is he including man in this list? It's not clear. This living creatures could be man, so we're not sure. Is this a general category or not? And we noticed, and if you'll notice, in all these orders that we're gonna go through, each time it's changed. Right now we have the domesticated animals, creeping things, and beasts of the earth. Of course, we start off with nefesh haya, and that won't be in any of the other categories. But these other things will be left out, or they're going to switch. And that's going to be a question. What's up with that? So is this a hierarchy? Are we talking about living creatures being man? Domesticated animals next, creeping things next, beasts of the earth next, the wild animals, or are we just saying living creatures, nefesh hayim? The nefesh hayim is these are all the living things that are going to be on the earth besides man, and with the same kind of soul, the nefesh hayim, this soul, and then he lists them: animals, creeping things, the beasts of the earth, because the fish and the birds were already mentioned. So what is this nefesh haya? So we're gonna have be help from a lot of the rabbis, meaning the Ramban or Chachayim. This is so. Let's see what the Ramban says about the Nefesh Hayah. There are three kinds of souls in living organisms: the vegetative soul, by which the organisms nourish themselves, grow, and reproduces. This soul is possessed by all living beings, vegetable, animal, and human. Okay. The animal soul, which endows the organisms with sensation and nobility. This soul is possessed by animals and humans. The rational soul, which is provides man, and man only, with ability to reason, as epitomized by the capability of speech. So we see that we have this Nefesh Hayah, but we got it in three levels. And man has the, I guess you could say, the higher level, okay? So also, I asked the question, what's the deal with man being mentioned here? Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's go to the next pasuk. And Elohim made, and thus Elohim made the beasts of the earth. And our key word here is made, beasts of the earth. Each of its kind, we see that again. Animals of pasture, each of its kind. And everything that creeps on the ground, each of its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Okay? So he makes makes animals. And we know that coming up, man is going to be actually created in Pasuk 2:7. So usually the way Hashem works, and we've learned this, we've seen this, it comes up all the time within all that happens through Torah, especially, we're in Abraham right now, it happens a lot, and through creation. The way Hashem works is he works with he has a statement, he says what he's going to do. Hang on a minute, let somebody in. He says what he's going to do. Then he has the idea, he gives us the idea, or sometimes he goes right to the action. He actually does it. So in this case, looks like he tells us what he's going to do, and then the second pasuk, he actually does it. He made the beasts of the earth. And of course, we see he leaves out Nefesh Hayim. He puts the wild animals first, and he puts the domesticated animals next, and the insects and the creeping things next. That seems more like a hierarchy list. So that could very well be. So what's going on here with the man? So we see a possible relationship between man and beast right now. Man is being introduced in a second. So let's go ahead and introduce him. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's look at Pasuk 27. Okay. And thus Elohim created man. This is of course one of the most famous pasuks in the Torah. You shall all know this. Thus Elohim created man in his form. In the form of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created him. Then Elohim blessed them. Elohim said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Dominate the fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, and every living thing that moves upon the earth. So again, you look at the pasuk, according to what we're trying to, with our goals, what would you ask on this? So we see that here, the difference is that before the animals are made, here Hashem creates man. What's the difference between creation and made? Made is made from something existing, something that's already there. Create is create from nothing. So here he's saying man is going to be created from nothing. Again, we know from the way Hashem works, this is his utterance. This is his telling us this is what's going to happen. This is not what's happening. What's going to happen is all the way on Pasuk 2:7. And there it changes from creation to made. Okay. So in the form of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Okay. He blessed them. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue them, dominate them. The fish of the sea, the birds of heaven, every living thing moves upon earth. The other two big things that we have to pay attention to here is subdue and dominate. He goes from dominate to subdue. We just saw dominate before, now we have subdue. Before, Pasuk 26, well, I forgot to talk about that, but we only had dominate. And now we have dominate and subdue. So what is dominate? What does it mean to dominate something? What is so then I would usually open it up to a lot of talk right now, but okay, so we look at the shorest, and what is the shorest? Dominate. Your due means to humble another to another's control, subservience, okay? Man is to humble animals to his control. Rashi says on this, his Dibra Maskil on the word dominate, Rashi says man will dominate the animals of all the earth if he deserves it, or they will dominate him. So you got to ask the question, where do you get that from? And we'll discuss that later. And then we add to this now, we have the word subdue. So what does that tell us? Was it hang on a minute. So okay, so subdue to dominate, is to rule, like to rule somebody. Subdue is to bring them into you, into closer to you. You're gonna not only rule them, you're gonna be using them in a bad way, maybe not so much in a bad way, but they're there for your subservience. They're there for you. Okay. Again, like I said, man is to humble himself. Man is to humble the animals to his control. Okay. And we see that this is actually Hashem is telling man, this is before man's created, what he needs to do. He needs his marching orders. He needs to subdue, and he needs to dominate animals. So let's look real fast. See what Rabbi Hirsch has to say about this. This is Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. Okay. The basic meaning of to dominate is to bring something down from the heights of freedom, to bring into one's hand under control. And then he talks about the story of Simshon, and he brings down some proofs. Then he says that thus by extension, the word means to deprive something of its independence and freedom, to bring it under one's control. When followed by a direct object, I'm going to skip that a minute. In all other cases, to dominate means to exert control over an object in a certain aspect of its being. Indeed, this man's position as regards to the other living creatures. His mission is not to make them all entirely subservient to him. The earth and its creatures may have aspects that are beyond the sphere of his control. And in these respects, they serve their own purpose. His task is to exercise control. This is the key. His task is to exercise control over all the living creatures and over the earth itself, fulfilling his mission as man. He's to deprive them of some of their freedom and bring them partially into his hand. Okay. So we see the creation of man is going to be a delicate balance. Man is created last to show his purpose over creation, the purpose over all of creation. And all of creation is created before man to show all of creation can also dominate man. It's up to man. And it says in the Pasuk, let us create man. And there's a beautiful idea by the Baal Shem Tov. What does it mean let us create man. Who's us? You know, and there's a lot of talk, a lot of rabbis' ideas about who is us. And the Baal Shem Tov said, us is us. It's us. We are going to help make man. It's our free will, our choice. We can either be like Hashem or not be like Hashem. We will create man. That's our job. That's what we're going to be doing. And according to Rashi, we have the choice. We can dominate these animals, or they can dominate us. Okay. Man is going to be different from the rest of creation. You do. He will rule man. He will rule man. He will rule. Man will be the caretaker of the world, Hashem's emissary, so to speak. The pasuk gives man his marching orders, his mission. So we see that Hashem, the word nefesh haya, creates something different. Creates something different in man. We see that man here is created. He's talking about being created, even though he's not. But when he's actually made, he's made. It says he makes man. Hashem created something different in man. He gave man a potential for spirituality and a higher purpose. He gave us free will to be an image, a likeness of Hashem. So let's talk about pasuk 28. So after this, Hashem blesses who? You know, the pasuk says, pasuk 28, Elohim bless them. Who's them? You know, if it's a nefesh haya and the animals, maybe it's man and animals. But if we were in class back somewhere, I don't know how many years ago, when we did pasuk 22, we saw that the animals are already blessed. And there, Hashem says, Elohim bless them, saying, be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters of the seas. Here, and in the one in our pasuk, it says, Hashem said to them. So the difference is said to them and saying. What's the difference? The difference is animals are going to procreate by instinct. Man's going to have to use his free will. And so we're starting to see some distinctions that Hashem is showing subtly through even though we were created on the same day, the animals are created before us, and we're the only two living things. The animals, well, a lot of living things with the animals, but the birds and the fish are on the fifth day, but the animals that we will be slaughtering are also on the same day we are. Okay. So when it says to be fruitful and multiply, what does that mean? You know, pei resh hay means to produce progeny, flourishing, and fruit. And last week we were discussing this being fruitful, and what's bothering Rashi. We were talking about Abraham doing when he was blessed before the circumcision. And actually, Mitch Adler came out with a beautiful idea, and this is what's so good about the give and take, that we get these wonderful ideas. Is that he said maybe it's not a verb, maybe it's an adjective. That being fruitful is an adjective, you know. And he says multiply, resh beit hey. You know, you're gonna have wonderful. He's talking about in that case Abraham's descendants that are going to come from inside of him, his seed. So maybe they're going to be beautiful, not just many, not just a lot of them. He's not going to be able to have a lot of children because he doesn't have a lot of children. That's how he came up with that question. He doesn't. He's not as fruitful as, let's say, Jacob. Anyway, so to multiply, increase might, having many children, increase. And here we go. Subdue. Subdue is vav kuf beit shin. Sorry. Subject forcibly, mastering and transforming, conquering. Okay, and dominate means to humble another, to control. So rule. We're going to control them. We're going to subjugate them. We're going to master over them. Are we going to treat them badly? Doesn't, I don't know. You can go. It depends on how you take those words. You know, how is conquering, transforming? Transforming is not so much as being cruel. Subject forcibly. Well, that could be. So, what does it try and tell us? We'll have to compare it to what's coming up. So man is to fill the earth with his likeness on a high level, as we see so far. Use the earth for his well-being. Rule over the animal kingdom to serve you and your mission. Okay. So let's look at 29 and 30. This is the menu. Look at the menu, what we're going to be eating from now on in the beginning of time. Elohim said, behold, I have given you all seed-yielding herbs that are on the surface of the earth, every tree that has seed-yielding fruit. To you it shall be for food, and for every animal of the earth, for every bird of the heaven, for everything that creeps on the ground, which there is a living spirit, a nefesh haya. All vegetational herbs shall be their food. So here, what is he talking about? He's talking about all the three different souls we talked about that the Rambam was talking about. So including man. What's going on? So we just talked about man, so we have to assume that we're talking about man too. Every animal on the earth, every bird of the heaven, everything creeps on the ground, every living spirit, vegetational herbs shall be yours for food. And it was so. So we see that Hashem is giving us, we're vegetarians. We're going to be, in the beginning of time here, we're going to be vegetarians. You'll not be eating meat. You know, telling man you'll rule over the animals, but they will not be your food. Man eats fruits and grains. Animals eat the leafy parts. So this is what Forno says. Man eats things that will need to be planted, and animals eat things that grow wild. That seems to make sense. So even though we are to rule the animals, we do not have permission to eat them. Their purpose is to serve man, just as man is to transform the earth to serve him. We're supposed to subdue, and we're supposed to dominate it. So man is able to complete his mission of being an emissary to Hashem. That's our purpose. We're supposed to represent Hashem, the man and animals. So the sixth day, this is where we stand so far. Both made the same day. Man and animals are both referred to as being made, but man is also created. Both are nefesh haya, living soul. And right now, both are vegetarians. Animals created before man, man created last to show his purpose, to rule over everything that was made before him, or show that, like we said earlier, Rashi says, the animal world made before will rule over him. Depends on man, his free will, what he does with this, with his power. Man is to be a representative of Hashem. Hashem gives man and animal separate blessings. Both man and animal need to eat to survive. That's how we end this. They both need the same thing to eat. We need to eat to survive. We both survive. We need to both eat, and we're going to eat different, sort of the same things, a little different. All the animals, and then at this point, which is something we need to look at, which is going to happen in all the three different times coming up when we're told what we can eat. The animals are going to be paraded. The animals are going to be paraded in front of, in this case, it's going to be Adam. And later on, it's going to be Noah. And later on, it's going to be Moshe. Moshe, when he does the whole showing the Bnei Israel the kosher animals, the Midrash tells us he holds them up and shows everybody exactly what they are. So each time we talk about eating, we are shown the animals. We're shown who they are, what they are. Okay? Pasuk 27-28 tells us the hierarchy of man over animal. Man is created in the image of Hashem. He's not made. Man is to rule over the animals. But when I say he's not made, he's created from nothing. Whatever this part now that Hashem is talking about, this is, remember, it's not the actual creation. It's talking about what he's creating. And when we're creating something from nothing, it's probably the soul, because later on we're making man from the dust, and that's going to be the body, the physicality. Man is created in the image of Hashem. Man is to rule over the animals. Man is to be superior to the animals. The animals are to serve him. Well, you will be eating the same things. Your survival will be the same. You must eat like the rest of creation. So after all this, telling us, what we need to do, we're going to be over everything, he brings us down a notch To survive, we're going to be the same. Our physical being might be closely related, but our spiritual being is what will set us apart. So Rashi says down here, we'll end with this before we go to Noah. To you it shall be for food and for every animal of the earth. Rashi says, he equates animals and beasts to them, to the humans, concerning the food they are to eat. He did not permit man and his wife to kill any creature in order to eat meat, whereas they're all permitted to eat all vegetation equally. When the sons of Noah came, meat was permitted to them. As it said, all living, creeping things, etc., like vegetation that I permitted to Adam, I have given you everything. So with that, let's move on to Pasuk 9:1 in Parsha Noah. Okay? Well, I mean, Breshis. We're in the book of Breshis, Parsha Noah. So I hope you've been following along in your Chumash. I know my guys have been. And probably they're biting at the chomp to say something, but we'll have to deal with that next week. So let's see what it says, because I don't know if we're going to be able to finish tonight. Elohim blessed Noah and his sons. He said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Your terror and fear will be upon every wild beast of the earth and upon every bird in the heavens. All that creeps on the ground, all the fish of the sea are given into your hands. So we see that he's blessed. This is the beginning of a new world. This is called Creation 2.0, as Rabbi McCall would say. And the world begins again. And Hashem blesses Adam and his sons. And Noah's to continue creation. He's continued to be fruitful and multiply. And we talked about that. But we see there's on the missions changed. We see that your fear and terror will be upon every wild beast of the earth. So are we talking about just the wild beasts? Are we talking about all the animals? Again, the wording changes. It's another question. We leave out subdue and dominate. Now it's fear and terror. Fear and terror will be on every beast of the earth, birds in the heaven, and all the creeps on the ground. What happened to domesticated animals? They're missing from this list. If we go back, you don't need to turn your Chumash, but we go back to chapter 8 real fast. The animals that are with Noah are blessed. The animals are blessed. So this is obviously a blessing for Noah. And they are to spread over the earth and be fruitful. In other words, their mission to spread, where we say we have to fill for us comes after fruit and Puravu. Their to spread over the earth comes before Puravu. Seems to be backwards. And again, remember the pasuk doesn't say said, it says to them, it says say, because they do by instinct. The animals are paraded in front of Noah, as we know, and Noah is blessed and decides on his own to do a burnt offering. This is in chapter 8, and that's when he's blessed right after that. And I'm going to read something from the Malbim on chapter 8. Through the offerings, Noah demonstrated that gathering the clean animals himself, he put aside physically for spirituality. Man was now on a new level. Noah demonstrated that man was now ready to move from the animalistic state in the beginning of life, which the Malbim calls his youth. He talks everything before the Mabul was the youth of man, which is devoid of intelligence, which were infants. And we developed to adulthood with more intelligence. We now move from the total physical state to where the physical and spiritual is more balanced. The generation of the flood never left the physical, the state of youth. Okay, Noah showed through his offering that the world was ready for a restart. And what's a little footnote here that all this is happening. Clean animals and all that we know of Adam, and then our guys of Abraham, all this happened. The Torah hasn't been written yet, but their mitos, their sensitivities, the reason why they are who they are and why we're reading about them and why we're talking about them is because it was innate. The Torah was innate. They knew the Torah. It was them. It was part of them. Okay. So let's go to 9:1. We've read it. Okay, again, like man, Hashem blesses Noah, be fruitful, multiply. Your fear and terror will be upon every wild beast. He leaves out domesticated animals. And they're given into your hand. What does that mean? Given into your hand. Yours, it sounds like yours to do what you want. Those are my words. Our relationship with the animal world now changes, which is obvious. You know, they're now fear, and we have fear and terror. And the Bible talks about fear of harm from another. Terror suggests submission. The smaller is terrified of the greater. Animal perceive man as a much larger than they are. And when years ago, when I was real young, I took horseback riding lessons at camp. And I don't know if this is true or not, but the person teaching us to ride a horse told us that the only reason why a horse lets you get on him is because he thinks you're bigger than him. Okay, so I don't know if that's true or not, but that goes along with kind of what we're talking here. So let's see what the Kli Yakar has to say about fear and terror. The purpose of this blessing of fear and terror is that the animals would submit to the shechting that would soon be allowed. Why should a beast allow itself to be taken to slaughter without protest if it were not for the hand of Hashem that brought about the natural fear of man? Our Barbanel says, Hashem caused the fear and terror because man was now few and animals were many. And Hashem did this to allay any fears Noah might have after the devastation of the flood. And we have a large conversation about this with Adam and now with Abraham. A lot of what is a lot of questions we have: are these things done because to allay Abraham's fear? Is that what Hashem's doing? Or are there other reasons? And the Barbanel tells us some of these things are because he's a human being. He has fear. There's a new world. He sees the devastation. All his relatives are gone. Everything's gone. He has fear. So the Torah says the animals have become overly familiar with man through the year of care from Noah. So now Hashem established man's mastery over them. Okay. So in the Zohar it says, animals do not fear man if they just see him as another animal. But if they see him in a man made in the image of Hashem, there's terror. So if we do what we're supposed to do, the animals will terror us. There'll be fear of us. We'll have terror. You know, and remember, it was master and ruler, fear and dread. And here we have an added thing, which says we have fear and dread and given into your hand. The key word, given. Originally, man's relationship to the earth was a relationship of closeness and protection. This is Rabbi Hirsch. Master and ruler. This relationship is no longer to exist. Man's duty now is to preserve his own life. And the Torah says, instead of the previous intimate relationship, the fear and dread of you shall be upon every animal of the earth. Okay? So, are given into your hands. And what does that mean? So if you think about it, you know, what's a kinyan? Hey, let me let somebody in. A kinyan is, you know, what do you do when you possess something? When it becomes yours is when you put it in your hand, you raise it up, and it's yours, a movable object. So the animals are going to be in your hand. They're going to be yours. It's almost like a kinyan. So the Barbanel says the humility and domestication acquired on the Teva would remain with the animals towards the humans. So it says it's going to be a natural thing. They're so used to being fed by Noah and man that they're going to be that's the way they're going to be. Their whole demeanor has changed. Into your hand, your control to do what you want to. It is your choice. They're your possession, and we talked about the Kinyan and the Rabag and the Caspi say to do as you please and to establish your mastery over the animals. Man's task, according to Rabbi Hirsch, now changes from perfecting the earth to now protecting himself. Man has lost his eminence. The bond between man and the animal world has been severed. Man's primary task is to work and perfect himself. So that was Rabbi Hirsch's statement on that pasuk. So it says, fear and terror will creep of the fear and terror. Then it says in Pasuk 3, our menu changes. Every moving creature that lives shall be yours for food. The green vegetation, which I previously gave, I've now given you everything as food. Everything. Kosher animals, non-kosher animals, insects, grasshoppers, turtles, grass, whatever you want to eat. Everything is yours to eat. Everything that moves shall be yours for food. The Rambam, kol remech. You see that we didn't talk about that, but the word that's used here, all moving creatures, kol remesh. The Ramban says it depends on the mode of moving. We're talking about all the different kinds of modes of moving. Every kind of mode of moving is for man to eat for food, even fish, according to Radak. Almost all rabbis agree that kol remesh refers to all moving creatures that have a life force. The basic definition of life is the ability to move from one place to another. Like the vegan diet before, where the menu was before, with the menu now, all animals are permitted, which were prohibited to Adam. Everything is yours. What changed? The Or HaChaim tells us that the animals were spared for Noah because only for man's sake, only for man's use, they were saved. They were supposed to die with mankind. They were just as bad and they sinned just as much as the generation of the flood. So the Or HaChaim continues. Noah took care of the animals in the Teva. They were dependent on him. Pasuk 6-7 tells us Hashem was to destroy all the animals, even mankind. And in Tehillim, in 128:2, it says, you shall eat the toil of your hands. And that's exactly what Hashem is giving to Noah at this point. The Radak says the animals were saved by you. Their salvation came through you. Master will be over them. Your mastery will be over them. Now Barbanel says Noah saw the desolation, no vegetation, and he saw Hashem allayed his fears. He's sticking with that idea, and he gave him all living things to eat. Rabbi Hirsch says, now man's shortened lifespan. At this point, there's a shortened lifespan. Man has a shortened lifespan. Man needs more nourishment. And also, now there's a climate change. Maybe that's what's going on now. Maybe there's a climate change different from the constant temperature that they had earlier. They can grow anything very easily all year long. Okay, and now we have to fill the gaps by eating meat. So it's a nourishment idea. Okay, the Ramchal says man was prohibited to eat meat before the flood because Hashem, foreseeing man's corrupt state, did not permit meat consumption. He saw what was going to happen. He knew what was going to happen. Eating meat, maybe he was stacking the deck. He was giving him a chance by making him a vegan. Maybe they could fight this physicality. Eating meat from an animal strengthens animalistic tendencies. You are what you eat. Okay. Why could Noah eat everything now? No restrictions. So let's go to the Ramchal, see what he says. So all future nations were destined to descend from Noah and his children. It was therefore necessary to permit them to eat all animals, those which relate to the internality, as well as those that relate to the externality, the physical, the soul and the physical, the spiritual and the physical. Noah, being the father of all nations, was permitted to eat all of these, so he could serve as the all-inclusive root, both the internal and the external of all the nations. Okay, that's the Ramchal's take on that. So let's move on. So time is running out. We're going to go to Parsha Shmini. The books that were there. I need them. Parsha Shmini, Vayikra. Guess we're going to have to move a little faster. Okay, Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, speak to Bnei Israel, saying, these are living things that you can eat from among all animals that are on the earth, all that have cloven hoof, their hoofs and completely split, and that chews its cud among animals. And it goes on and on. We just had it, so y'all should know it. I know you memorized it. You know what's a kosher animal. He gives us what's kosher. Okay, so just like the other times we are directed at what we should eat. We're at Sinai. We're about ready to go into Israel, starting something new. Again, we're showed all the animals, just like the past 3 times. He raises them up. This is kosher. This is not kosher. He tells us. And so now we even have, we went from veganism to eating everything to now a restricted diet. We can only eat what's kosher. Okay. Why kosher? Why now as a newly formed Jewish nation? Why now as a Jewish newly formed nation with a Torah? Why? Our Barbanel, okay, let me get that, hang on. See what the Barbanel says. Our Barbanel emphasizes that these physical characteristics are not the reason they are permitted. Rather, they are the characteristics that enable us to identify them as permitted animals. However, in many instances, these characteristics also provide an insight as to why these particular species are permitted or prohibited. First of all, these animals are purely vegetarian and lack the teeth and claws that characterize carnivorous species. Barbanel invokes the concept of you are what you eat. These animals are generally placid and gentle, while carnivores by necessity have a violent, cruel, cunning nature. Eating such an animal will transfer that very nature to us. Similarly, kosher birds have 2 characteristics that parallel those of the land-dwelling animals, just as kosher animals. I'm going to skip this because we're running out of time. I'm going to go down. Finally, Barbanel rejects the idea that the main reason for the various prohibitions is to protect our physical well-being. The eating of kosher is healthier. He points out that Gentile, the idea of eating kosher is healthier is not right. He points out that the Gentiles eat these animals without any detrimental effects whatsoever. Additionally, there are numerous plant species that are exceedingly harmful that the Torah does not prohibit. So it's not a health issue. The only reason for these prohibitions is to enhance our spiritual well-being by limiting our physical desires and curbing our animalistic nature. For this reason, prohibited species are never referred to in the Torah as dangerous or unhealthy. Rather, they are referred to as impure or abominable. Both of these terms refer purely to spiritual rather than physical consequences, not being sick. God is concerned about the effect of the foods that we eat on our true essence, on our soul, our character, and our behavior. Okay, so that's Barbanel's take on that one. So Rob Sorotskin, talking about Moshe, showing all the kosher animals to Bnei Israel, man needed to understand the qualities of animals in order to fulfill his mission of living a life dedicated to achieving closeness to Hashem. And this is what's going on with all the 3 times. Man needed to see the essence of these animals. You know, Adam had to name them. Noah had to see who sinned, which one sinned in the table when they came out. They're looking at their essence, the essence of these animals, who they are, how they're going to affect them. Man needed to understand the qualities of animals in order to fulfill his mission of living a life dedicated to achieving closeness to Hashem. This lofty existence of Kedusha is possible only if a person does not eat spiritually detrimental, forbidden foods. So all the animals were shown to Bnei Israel so they could fully appreciate which of these creatures, when eaten, would help them achieve their new elevated lifestyle and which to avoid. Finally, the Rambam, in discussing the Sifrei's idea of kashrus being a positive commandment and a negative commandment, comments on the part of our pasuk that says, "These are the creatures you may eat." There's no obligation to eat animals if we do not wish to. So let's move on, because we're really running out of time, to Devarim. See if we can get here. We're going to Devarim, pasuk chapter 12, Ray 2021. I'm going to start moving at the speed of light. Okay. Pasuk 20. When Hashem your God expands your border as he promised you, and you say, I would like to eat meat, because you have an appetite to eat meat to the full extent of your appetite, eat meat. When the place is distant from you, that Hashem your God chooses to set his presence there, meaning the temple, you may slaughter some of your cattle or your flock. So basically, Moshe is saying when you're spread out all of Israel and you can't bring your animals to be shechted at the temple, eat them where you are. You can eat them. It's all up to you. So Rashi says this is the permission to slaughter animals for their meat, even without bringing the offerings, even without bringing them for offerings. This is so if you live far from the temple, you can eat meat. You can slaughter them. Basically, you can slaughter them at home. A very important word in here is ki te'aveh, appetite. That's what I don't know if you have a Chumash in front of you. See what the interpretation is. Mine is appetite. Sometimes it's desire. So let's see what is that? So the etymology is the shorish is aleph bev hey. It means to crave, to seek control, craving, choosing, striving for a goal. The pasuk is saying when you get to Israel, you can eat meat that you crave, that you desire, whatever you want. If you want, whatever you're choosing, craving, you can eat meat. So let's see what Rabbi Hirsch says about this. No, it's not going to happen. The wrong book. Okay, this one here. Okay. All right. Says, this is Rabbi Hirsch. During the period of the sojourn in the wilderness, when the whole nation lived in close vicinity of the sanctuary, it was forbidden to eat the meat of animals fit to be used for an offering, unless they were offered as meat. They could be eaten only as part of the offering given to the owner. So in other words, the only way you can eat meat when you had the sanctuary, you had to offer it first. Then you can sit down and eat it, share it with the kohen, or you can eat it if it was a shlomim, you can eat it yourself. The permission for the profane eating of meat, when he says the permission for the profane eating of meat is given here unconditionally. The Torah assumes that meat is not a regular food item, but is eaten to satisfy a special requirement. And from the Gemara, it appears that only with the increasing weakness of constitution did a daily consumption of meat become necessary. Indeed, the implication of our verse is that even after Hashem's expand your borders, when sustenance is abundant, the eating of meat is still contingent on your desire. The detailed reason for the permission to eat is probably intended to exclude the lusting after meat, which was unjustified and if we see, in the Parsha Haman, when they complain, we don't have meat, we see what happens, So he says this reason that they were given is so that wouldn't happen. You can eat meat if you want to eat meat. So let's see what's going on here. So the Ramban says the idea of this passage is that once the nation spread throughout Israel, then it is permitted to slaughter as they wish, which again leads to the idea that up to now the Jewish nation wanted to eat meat, they would have to consecrate it first. And also the Rashi gets that this is where we get ritual slaughter from. Rabbi Akiva says the pasuk tightens the rules further for kashrus at Sinai, now to ritual slaughter. So we've had kashrus at Sinai, now to ritual slaughter. You may slaughter, meaning you have to do it right. And as I have commanded you, slita, ritual slaughter. So what is the Torah trying to say as concerning meat? what is meeting all about? Why is it so central in the Torah? Sadaya Gaon says eating meat is one of the 613 mitzvahs because we have an obligation to enjoy all that Hashem has given. The purpose of creation from Hashem is to give us good. Do I have time to go on, Rabbi Friedman? Are you there? I can't hear you, but
Okay, yeah, I am here.
do I have time to go on?
I think Rabbi Freitag is waiting in the wings. So maybe if you could wrap it up.
All right.
Freitag's waiting to come on.
Okay, we'll end with this. Okay. Well, we got lots to go. Okay, I'll just have to end with this, and maybe next Tuesday night, well, if you come, we'll give the ending here. This is very interesting. So, Rabbi Cook. This is from Rabbi Cook, and this is from his book, Vegetarianism and Peace. So, he says vegetarian is a future vision. It's important, is real, but not for today. Why not? Because it's possible to skip stages in human development. Some vegetarians explain they do not eat meat in order to show compassion to animals. That is certainly important, but we first need to show compassion towards human beings, and we have not finished all of our obligations in this realm. Once we succeed in being merciful and righteous toward human beings, as well as move on to animals, we can skip stages. We are not criticizing those who are vegetarians. If a person wants to be a vegetarian, he may do so, but it's impossible to define it as a mitzvah or even as a stringency. Someone once asked me, am I a vegetarian if I decided to stop? Do I need hataras nadarim? Since someone who performs a proper custom a few times wants to stop, he needs to do hataras nadarim. I said that there is no need for hataras nadarim, since vegetarian is not a mitzvah or stringency. It is a good, compassionate, and proper character trait for one who wishes, but it is before its time. An individual who desires to be a vegetarian is fine, but this cannot be, as Marah Harav Cook refers to it, a communal practice. We have to work, according to him, we have to work on ourselves. That's what's important. We have to improve ourselves. He said, there will be a time to come when our midos will be in such a way, our man-to-man relationships, that we will be able to think about compassion to animals. And that's why he leaves it. And we left a lot out, a lot of other opinions on eating meat. And if you want, you can email me on your opinion. And maybe next Tuesday night, we'll come up with the end of this.
That's your
Thanks for
talk
coming.
and
I
pay
hope
your
this
phone.
has helped you deciding if you want to be a vegetarian or a meat eater.
So I want to thank Harold. Harold for a wonderful presentation. And I want to thank a group of people that made Harold's presentation possible tonight. First of all, I want to thank all the people that regularly come to Harold's Tuesday night class. See, Aaron Altman was here, and Len Sherman was here, and Bert Scharf, Richard Crone, Zohar. So all the guys that came, that's wonderful. And you keep Harold good and sharp every Tuesday night. But I also want to thank his sponsors, because a group of people got together and they sponsored Harold, and they are Mitch and Linda Adler, Kim and Dan Cohn, Lester and Linda Chuper, Laura Fruchtman, Jason and Leanne Kaplan, Richard and Susan Crone, Stephen and Eva Mendel, Charlotte and Elliot Rich, Jay and Susan Rosenheck, Laura Schroeder, Zohar and Carmela Schiff, Dennis and Marcia Yashik, Neil and Sydney Cooper, Harvey and Gail Linder, David and Miriam Karsh, Adrian Litt, and Larry and Sandy Glassman all sponsored this wonderful class tonight. And, you know, I guess they knew that they would be getting a lot of information, so they made a wise choice. They sponsored a great class.